Okay. Good morning, everybody. How are we? How are we doing? I see that the attendance list is still growing, which is fine. I know that I have Erin with me as always, at least as always today. She's taking the attendance, so please be patient with her. If you have any questions, please you can put them in the chat. Just don't send them directly to me. Make sure that everybody can see them. Just send them to everyone, because sometimes people will be able to answer it before I see it, and I'm not really spending a lot of time looking at the chat there. So for those of you that just asked if I'm talking, I assume that you can hear me now.
I can hear you just fine, Scott.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. Okay, so like I said, the session is recording. So let's go ahead and get started. As we do, I want to go ahead and I'll share this in the chat right now for anyone who would like it. And this comes with a disclaimer that inside of this slideshow that I'm sharing, it's like 117 slides, okay? We are not going to talk about 117 slides because that's terrible, and I like you, I wouldn't do that to you. But I am sort of making this for another reason. So that's the reason why it is. I'm just sort of using some dual purpose stuff with this. That's why it's so long, and it goes into some painful detail. But then again, if you need it, it is good to have. So I put that link in the chat, and we can go ahead and get started with one of the first things that we have, just, is our navigation. So before we talk about cross-listing and all those sorts of things, one of the biggest issues that we had last year was navigation. Everyone's home course looked different, and this is unique to Fort Zumwalt. So the things that I'm talking about here are sort of something that we've done on the backside and how you can use it in your classroom and what you can do about it if you don't like it. So first of all, as you can see from our little picture here, we've got our course navigation on the left-hand side. Last year, one of the biggest issues that we had was complaints from parents, from kids, from anybody who had to go in there going, I don't know where the stuff is because it's different on the left-hand side than it is from everybody. And so, let's stand by real quick. Give me just a second to fix this small issue, and I'll be right back in. That's the right one. I apologize for this, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and just get this out. Okay, so like I said, one of the biggest problems we had was the navigation on the side. So what we did this year is we did a... No, you are not doing something wrong. You should not have video of you or the other participants. What we have is this navigation. So we created a template. And let me go ahead and just bring that template up so you can see it. So if I bring this over here and I go down into our courses, actually I need to go into the settings. Settings. and we go into our sub accounts. I know this is you don't need to worry about this stuff. I just want to bring up the actual template that we used. So if we go into our sub accounts, I've got this here module that I've got set up. This is the template that we used for all of our secondary courses this year. And what that means is we went ahead, oops, navigation, and we hid all these things for the students. So when a student logs in, and I can't show you this on this one because if I do, it breaks stuff. But when you go to a student view, when you bring a course in, you're going to see home, the announcements, the modules, the discussions, the grades, and the syllabus. That's all the kids are going to see. You're not going to see any other things except, well, you're not going to see any other things as a student. Everything else will be listed here underneath, all the pages, all the assignments, all the quizzes, whatever. And that goes to the fact that in order to simplify these things, we really wanted to drive the kids to the assignments, to the pages, whatever, through the modules, okay? So like I say, we've done a couple of things. This was one of them. Now, if you're a teacher and you're like, I don't like that, I want them to be able to go directly to assignments, that's fine. You just go into your settings and you drag this up above this line, and the kids will be able to see it. You still have complete and total control of your course. It's just something that's a little bit easier for the kids, a little bit easier for the parents, a little bit easier for the teachers, I would argue. So what does that look like in real life? So if I go here and I've got this Canvas for Student Success, like I said, there's nothing in here, brand new course. And I hit Student View. You're going to see that it didn't grab that template because I'm not in that template, my bad. I forgot. I forgot sometimes when you make one of these things that I can't do it. Sorry, new course. Please make sure that you're muted there.
Yeah, that's what I'm glad I teach group classes.
I have no idea.
So if I go to new course 2 and I move this, these things on the side will be hidden, okay? And so what does that do for you? That helps you make sure that your kids are paying attention to what's going on, making sure that they're only accessing things that you want them to access. I say we drive students into the assignments, whatever, either through a page or through a module. So what does that mean to you? So the gotcha to this is that if you import a course from last year, and if you want to try this along with me, I'll give you a minute here or two so you can try it. If you import a course from last year, it's going to overwrite all those modules, or I'm sorry, all those course settings that we made. So how do you fix that? Okay, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to go into courses and I'm going to copy in a course from last year. So let me do that again, just in case I did too quick. I'm going to go to courses. I'm going to go to all courses. And I'm going to take, I don't know, let's take this computer apps course. And I'll come down to settings. And I have found that the easiest way to do this is to grab the SysID. So I just go to settings, up here on the course details, I grab the SysID. And this is the one that I want to bring in, okay? So I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And I'm going to have to do a little bit of finagling. You won't have to do this. But I'm going to make a new course. And I do have to do this so that it grabs the template. So please forgive me. This is not a thing that you would have to do. This is something that happens on the back end when you when Sys creates your courses. So let's find North High. There you go. I'll add my course. It's my, now I'll add myself in as a teacher. Once again, not a thing that you would have to do. This is something automatically done by Sys, but since I don't have courses this year, I have to do it this old-fashioned way. Okay. All right, so going back through this, let me go ahead and accept that. If I want to take my old course, there we go. Looking at the student view, like I said, this is what's going to come over. We've got home, grade, syllabus, and people. I cannot hide the people tab. That's just something that happens because there's no people in it. When you make the template, it's a long story. So that is something that you will probably want to hide. But my point is, this is what the kid's going to see. And you might say, Scott, I thought you said there was going to be grades or modules. And I thought you said there was going to be a couple other things. Well, those things don't exist. That's why they're not here. But they will in a second. So I'm going to leave the student view. And like I said before, I'll just go back and do this real quick. I want to go to courses, all courses, past enrollments all the way down here. I want to grab this advanced computer apps. I want to go to my settings. I want to grab my SysID and go back to my dashboard. I'm going to find my Canvas for Success course. And I'm going to come over to the right-hand side and I'm going to import existing content. Now, here's the trick. Inside of here, I'm going to copy a Canvas course. I'm going to paste in that SysID. There it is right there. And instead of all content, I'm going to select specific content. And while I'm at it, I'm going to adjust the due dates and I'm going to remove those due dates from last year because otherwise it's going to bring in those due dates from like March, which isn't going to do me any good. Select specific content. I hit import and then I need to select what content. And I'm going to pick everything except the very top one. So everything except the course settings. And I'll hit select. And this will take a second to import. So some people say that that they don't use the modules. Once again, it's an easy way to organize stuff, but if you don't want to use the modules and you just have the kids look at pages and you link the assignments from your page to your assignments, that's fine as well. You just go into settings, and which I can do while this is running, and you go into navigation and you take your pages, you pull it up to the top, pull it up to the top, and you hit save. That's all you have to do, then the kids see the pages. Or conversely, you can just make a page a homepage. Just because it's hidden over here in the navigation doesn't mean that they can see it. And I'll show you that in a second. I do want to get out of there though. Okay, so now when I go back home, it's probably still importing stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it's still importing stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there. And this is also one of the reasons why the move to semester courses is very helpful, because you're not going to have these gargantuan courses that are going to take kids forever to get through. They'll be able to move through a little bit more quickly. So as we wait for this to copy over, and I'm waiting because it has a homepage on it so I can sort of demonstrate what's going on. We can talk quickly about the biggest part of that being, you can use the navigation to sort of control what your kids see, and not only what they can see, what they can interact with. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I've had kids that like jump ahead, start working ahead on something. I have kids who are, just like I was when I was a kid, and I just start clicking randomly just because I'm bored. So there might be a reason why you might want to just sort of lock this down. But to get to the point, just because the pages are hidden, so if I go home now, and I go to student view, because right now the modules are the home page, right? So I can see my home, my modules, my grades, my syllabus, my people. If I want to make my pages visible, watch this. I can go to my pages. And I'm on the teacher side again. I'm going to view all pages. I'm going to make sure that this is a front page. So, oh, it's already set as the front page. Cool. I'm going to go back to my home. I'm going to choose my home page. and I'm going to set the pages as the home page. Now remember, it's still hidden for the students, right? So what does that mean? What am I saying? As a student, this is obviously a page, and I can obviously go to the syllabus page, which I haven't created, or I can go to the other resources. So you might be saying, like, what's the point of hiding it? So the point of hiding it is so that the students just can't come over here and click on pages and see all of these things, right? So just because you have the pages hidden over here does not necessarily mean that they can't see any page that you publish and have them walk through. It just means that they can't come over here and see all these and go, what's on snow day 1? What's on start here, right? Those sorts of things. That's the only difference. Okay, so, and I know that might have been clear as mud. Once again, I did record this for those of you who are wondering how to bring import stuff into the class. I think that gave you a nice walkthrough on that as well. Hiding navigations to items that students don't need is one of the biggest tips you can do. You can create links in the same order for all your team teachers, all your departments. If even you don't like the way that my little template came through, that's fine. You can still reorder it. And if you find next semester that you're like, you know what, maybe this would be great for, you know, our middle school might work a little bit better that way. We can't control the templates to an extent. Like I can't do it department by department because that's not the way that we're set up. But, you know, I could do it school by school if a school had a different way, or if you all decide, you know, maybe middle school needs a little bit different than high school does. I'm a big fan of the modules because I believe that the modules are basically your basic building block of Canvas. And the reason that I say that is because it's a great way to help organize the information, especially for those of us who like to work ahead, or for those of us who are importing content from other teachers, or for those of us who just sort of need a way to sort of organize the information before we send it through. The big thing with the modules, let me go ahead and collapse all this. As you can see with this stuff that I just brought in, this is the course that I just brought in and I just imported it. And you can see everything that I've already had published from last year is still published now. So you might say to yourself, oh, does that mean that I got to go through and unpublish each and every single one of these assignments? No, it does not. What you can do is I just hit collapse all, and you can unpublish all of these different modules. If the modules are unpublished and the assignments tabs are hidden, then the kids can't see the information inside. If I were to go to student view right now, and I'll just put, because like I said, this is backwards order. I'll just take my welcome, I'll put it at the top. I'll publish that. And that is the only thing that the student would be able to see. All right, so I do want to make that clear that even if, you know, a module is published or unpublished, or the assignments inside of it are published or unpublished, like if I open this up, even if I unpublish this one at a time, now the student can only see the banner. So it all depends on what you want to be able to see, how far ahead you've worked, if you're bringing stuff in. If you're not, then that's not a big deal. You know, if you were like me the first couple of weeks anyway, I was just making stuff as I went along and it didn't really matter what the kids saw. But then later on, I started getting a little bit more advanced, a little bit, well, not advanced. I started working a little bit further ahead and making those things that I didn't want the kids to get to them before I was done with them or before, you know, they were ready to get to them. So that's just a way to look at it. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and take a couple of minutes for those of you who want to either look in your previous courses and bring one over, or to just sort of play around with that navigation and see what it looks like on the courses that have already been generated. So what I figured I'll do is it's 10:20. Why don't we just take until about 10:30? We'll just do a quick 10-minute timer. If someone has a question, you can throw it in the chat. Please send it to everybody though, so that way everybody can see it. And then if you have a question, you can work with it. If I'm able to, I'll answer your question. Some things might need, you know, like a work order or something, but it should be okay. So why don't we go ahead, take 10 minutes. I'll mute my mic. And we can go ahead, take a look at your courses. Take a look at the navigations on the left, see if it's how you want to bring it over. If you're going to import something, you might even want to try and import a class. So we'll go ahead and take a few minutes to do that now.
Hey, Scott, I'm not sure if I can answer this question correctly. I know at elementary level, we get all of our information for our Canvas courses. They're pushed to us. Is it the
Blueprinted,
same
yes.
for secondary as well? Or can they pick and choose like a single module that they would want instead of the entire course?
So yes and no. For elementary, like you say, it's blueprinted out and it just shows up. If you have just one module that you want to send over, you could do it a couple of different ways. Let me move this to a different screen. Let's go to courses. So you could either, I don't know if it'll let you do this from past enrollments. I think you should be able to. I wonder if it'll let you copy from one to a live. So what do I? Yeah, so you could go into your old one and it should allow you to do this. You can go into your old Canvas course or whichever one you're copying from. All right. Find the three dots at the top of the module, copy to, and then just start typing in the name of the Canvas course. So my Canvas. You could do it that way. So that'd be one way of doing it. Or let's go to the new course. So this is the new course. And this also answers somebody's questions in the chat about how to remove those due dates. So if you're importing existing content and you choose a Canvas course, I don't know if I would want to do this for each and every single module, but it's something that you could do. You might want to make sure that is checked as well. You could select specific content and adjust the due dates. So this is going to allow you, this select specific content option is going to allow you to bring over things module by module. And this adjust the events and due dates is going to allow you to remove all those due dates. It'll just wipe them out. And then when you click import and it says, what do you want to import? You could actually open up this little drop down here and choose any one of these modules to do. Like I say, it would be kind of a pain if you have, like 30 modules to do this, week by week by week. But if that's, or if you were getting them from different sources, maybe you could do it that way as well. So I could see a use for it. Maybe not for everybody, but I could certainly see a use for it. So if I just wanted, the hub, I just check that and bring it in. I'll go ahead and cancel that though. Don't need it. See how we're doing on my timer there. 3 minutes left. So somebody said that they went in, they changed all the navigation around, and when they looked in the student view, the tabs that they were hoping for were not viewable, and they had the crossed out I. If there's nothing published in there, or if there's nothing in there, it'll still look like that on the student view. The students are not going to see a tab that has either all the content unpublished or has nothing in it. And yeah, if you're, I see some people had sort of like straggled in, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you were supposed to be in somewhere else or whatever, and something got messed up, that's not an issue. Just make sure that I know Aaron's working feverishly to make sure that all the attendance is taken. So don't leave too quick.
Yes, if you weren't originally registered for this, just shoot me a message in the chat and I'll make sure to send an email to let them know that you were attending this session.
Because the last thing we want is people not to get credit for it. So
Okay, Scott, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. I mean, God, I hope so. Um, there is someone asking about Canvas gradebook. Is that on the agenda today?
That is on the agenda today.
Great. And then another one is about cross-listing. Are you going over any of that?
So I can talk about how to cross list briefly. It is something that, you know, I sort of talk about a little bit in here. If you have a specific issue though, you may want to go ahead and put in a work order for that. I will say I've had a couple of questions about teachers wanting to cross list first semester and second semester. And I don't think that's going to work for you. I think you won't have any problems until second semester rolls around and that term grade moves your first semester to past enrollments. And then I don't know what would happen. So, and the worst part about that is you would then have to tear it apart and you lose all your first semester grades. So I would highly recommend against cross-listing first and second semester together. But if you want to cross-list first and second hour together, knock yourself out.
Okay. This person was asking more about if they have not cross-listed yet, but right now they're kind of working on these things that you're showing in a course and then they cross-list later. Is that going to will they have to redo that work that they're basically doing right now?
Okay, so no, not really. Yes and no, not really. So I would say that you can work on this stuff now, which is great and awesome. I would do it in just one course. And then when you bring in those other courses, they will follow whatever the parent course tells them to. Basically, when you cross-list, you're just bringing over names, really, is what is happening. But the issue is, if you have assignments in those children courses that you're bringing over, then you're going to have some conflicts in there because some kids are going to have assignments that the other kids are not going to have, and Canvas will eat some of them, and then you'll have to tear it back apart. So now I'm not saying you got to be done by Monday, but I would say I would have them set up before I started getting grades from kids. That would be my caveat to that. And just for those that are wondering, let me go ahead and show you this, just to be honest and clear. What in the world this cross-listing is talking about anyway? So here you can see I've got two courses. Let me add a kid in here just for fun. This would work the exact same way, whether it's, you know, I'm just using mine here, obviously, but this will work just fine with some cis-generated courses. So what cross-listing does is it takes one course here and it moves it into another one. So let's say, and this is more for our secondary folk, our middle school and high school especially, I've got intro to basket weaving first hour, and then I've got intro to basket weaving second hour, third hour, fourth hour, whichever. You can take an unlimited number of courses and jam them into a parent course. So what really gets people is you got to think about it backwards. I want this course to go into this course. So I have to actually go into this one first. So I'm going to go into my parent course. I'm going to go into settings. And you're going to notice this a lot today. I'm going to come down. I'm going to find my SysID. Now, this one does not have a SysID because I just made it. So if it doesn't have a SysID, I can use this. This is a cheating way. Pretend this is not real. Because I don't have any cis-generated courses right now. But if I did, and they have to be current, I can't take a past enrollment and put it in there. But just to show you, oops, wrong one. Just to show you, I think we all remember where the course ID is. It's under settings, SysID, right? That's going to be the thing that you're going to look for. I don't have that on this manually generated one because it didn't come from Sys. So anyway, once you get that ID, then you're going to go into the child course. So this is the course that I want to go into this course. And I wish I could just drag it over there and make it that easy. When you do, you're going to come down to settings. You're going to come over to sections. And this is what gets everybody. They want to use this blue plus section button. Do not use this. This is for something completely different. You need to open up the course section. See how I did that? Let me refresh it. Settings. Sections. You click on the blue new course or whatever the name of the course is. Open that up. And then you'll get this button on the right that says cross list this section. If you click on that guy, then you can come down here and pop in that course number. Hit enter and it'll show up. Another little gotcha. If there's a space, sometimes it brings over a space. It'll tell you it's not authorized for cross-listing. If you see that, just delete that space. Okay, hit enter. And then click cross-list this section. Now if I go to the dashboard, you'll notice this course is gone because it now lives inside of this one. That was a very quick run through. You were drinking from a hose on that one. If you have any questions about that, and this is, I was going to get to this later on, but I'll go ahead and pop it in now. If you go to the help button and you choose this link right here, I think everyone's heard about this by now. You go to FC Tech Central. It's this course of all the how-tos that we have in Canvas. So if you're like, I want to cross-list my course, but I have no idea what that man was talking about, coming over here, go to cross-listing your courses, and it walks you right through how to do it. Okay.
All right, Scott.
Yeah.
Someone asked, how do I know which is the child and which is the parent course? They should have made a note to themselves, correct? For what
you choose which is which. Generally,
Yes.
I just go with the earliest hour. So if I have a first, a second, and a third hour, I just make the first one the parent. It's entirely up to you. It's whichever way you want to do it. If you've been working in third hour and you haven't done anything to first and second, you want to bring those into third hour, that's completely fine too.
Okay.
That's a user decision.
I know you secondary people operate a little bit differently than we do.
Yeah, I know. And all my love goes out to you poor elementary people, because when I saw what Hannah was doing last year, I almost lost my mind. I couldn't believe that.
You know what? We all survived, so it's okay.
That's because you're strong. Zoom on.
Someone else also asked about undoing if they already cross-listed first and second semester. That is a work order, and Nick has to do that, correct?
Nick doesn't have to do it. Hannah or I believe
Perfect.
their Shield agent should be able to do it as well. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah, it just put it. It's a 2-second thing. It's not a big deal. It's not gonna affect anything. Okay, so getting back to the course here, like I mentioned, I'm a big fan of the modules. I like to use them to lay out the courses. This shows you obviously how to create one. I think everyone knows how to do it. The cool thing about it is, and let me get down to the part, when you're inside of the Canvas course, whether it be through the modules, where I can come up here to this plus, and I can create content from here. So if I wanted to make a new assignment, I could do that from here. I could create an assignment. Let's call this my new assignment. And this will create a shell. Oops, sorry. This will create a shell right here. There's nothing in it though. I just hit my new assignment and now there's nothing inside of it. If I open it up, you can see it's completely empty. So I would have to go into edit and I would have to make my changes in here. With that being said, I could also go to assignments. So I could go to the assignments tab and make a new assignment from here. This is a personal preference. It all depends on how you want to do it. If I click add assignment, then it just brings me right to this spot where I can start adding in my content. So one of the things, even though this isn't directly related to students, it is your ability to make those assignments quickly and easily. And so I like to just point out that there's 2 different ways of doing that. Also, this is a new little update from Canvas to you, is that inside of modules now, when you used to make a quiz, because you can make all kinds of stuff, quiz. If you make a quiz, you now get a chance to make a new quiz or a classic quiz. So those of you who are fans of classic quizzes, you can still do that. Those of you who are fans of new quizzes, you can use that as well. And here's a little insider information for you. The ability to print new quizzes is coming soon. All they really said was in fall. I don't know what fall means to them, so I can't say for sure. But it is what it is. Da, 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 da.
Okay, Scott, I'm sorry. We are
That's fine.
chatting about some cross-listing things still.
Sure.
When you cross-list all of your classes, if you only wanted to assign something to say your kids that are in your third hour class, how would you go about that at the secondary level?
So how you would go about that is, let's go ahead and let's add an assignment then. And this will bring me to what I'm going to as well. This works for assignments. This works for pages. This works for anything. So I'm going to make myself a new assignment. And I'm going to call this first hour only. I apologize to the business teachers who are watching me mangle this keyboard. And you put in whatever assignment you want, my assignment stuff. And when you come down, you fill out all this stuff as you normally would. And you get down to this part, you get to the Assign To box. If you click inside of here, you can see that my 2 courses, new course and my Canvas Success course, are both in here. They're listed as a section. So if my first hour were new course, and I just click that, then only those kids in that course are going to get this assignment. This brings up the other question is, okay, let's say I got A day or B day, or let's say that I've got a block day, right? So I want these kids to have it, on Tuesday, and I'm not going to see my other kids until Thursday, and I don't want them to see it before then. That's fine. Here inside of this Assign To box, I got this Add. So if I were to click Add, you can then add in other kids, right? So you could do a due date of Thursday for these guys, and it's available until Thursday. But these guys, they're not even going to be able to see it until tomorrow, let's say. And it's available until Sunday, right? So you can go through and you can stack these assignments however you'd like. The reason that you would want to do that is, block days, A day, B days. I know at the middle school, a lot of specialty teachers have that sort of, A day, B day kind of a thing going on. And some kids are getting it before the other kids are getting it. Maybe they start sharing or whatever, right? So you can use this Assign To block to your advantage. You're like, yeah, I don't know about that. And that way the other students won't see, the other sections won't see it until you're ready for them to see it. I hope that answers their question.
Yes, there was one more about knowing the difference between A day and B day students since they're listed the same at the middle school. So is that just a matter of them making a note to themselves with like a course number, or?
So you could do that.
Or they could rename it.
You could rename it. That'd be the easiest way, but that would be one of those, I don't want to get too deep in the woods here. If that person would like to put in a ticket just to talk about that real quick, we could. You could actually set up these sections down here to do it that way as well. Now, if you named it, so I've got new course here, I can just be like, my B day. Come on, Scott, kids. There we go. So now when I go to my assignments, and I make one, here in the box, I'm going to get my B-Day kids. So you can rename it right there. When you start having specialized kids with maybe accommodations, modifications, IEPs, depending on how severe they are and depending on how many you have, how severe the modifications are, that's when you would start using that section button. But that's something we could talk about that. That's a little bit more in depth and involved and not really something for, for the general teacher who's gonna need that. Does that make sense? Okay. So speaking of assignments and pages and all these other things, what do they do and what are they for? Okay, so we talked about creating the content, but we didn't really talk about what the content was. And like I said, this will go through painful detail on how to do it. Is that the next section? Yeah. So you can have assignments and you can have pages. And I think some of us are pretty familiar with it. But for our pages, that's essentially going to be something we don't want responses from. Or something that we want to use as a way to branch out to other things. Think of a page as just like a regular old web page, right? It's essentially what it is. And you can fill it up with anything you want, but the kids aren't going to interact with it for the most part, unless you want them to. I'll show you that in a second as well. So pages, obviously, you can go through, you have the rich content editor, and you can put in YouTube videos, and you can put in text and images and anything else that you like. But what I do want to show you, which some people may not be familiar with, is that you can actually have the students edit that content. So here's what I'm going to do, and this is a little crazy. If I can find my course. Oh. Okay, so if I come here to my dashboard and I go to this course, which is what it is, let me go ahead and publish it while I'm at it. And I go to a page and I go to view all pages, and I want to make a page. So I'm going to call this my wiki. So let's talk about interacting with our kids and the way that students can become leaders in the classroom. Let's say we've got, I'm just going to pick math just because it's on the top of my head. And I have some kids who are really good at it, and I have some kids who struggle with it. Well, you can use these pages, my wiki page, as a way to sort of like have the kids discuss with each other what's going on, make like a list of ways to help each other. And you're like, what in the world does that mean? Let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's say, I'm just going to put up here, put your math tips here. And then underneath this, where it says options, I'm going to allow teachers and students to edit this page. Now, depending on your class, you may or may not want to do this. Normally, only the teacher can do it, nobody else can. But you can also come down here and use teachers and students. And I'll save and publish this. And then let me pop into my fake kid. And I'll bring him over here. And I'll find, sorry, I use the fake kid for a lot of stuff. There it is. Now you'll notice he can't go there because, like I said, I've hidden the pages over here so they can't get there. But what I can do is I'll put it in a module. So I'll go back to my modules. Up here at the top, I'll put new, I'll choose a page. I'll choose my wiki, add the item, and I'll publish it. Okay, so now for this student, he can come back here to modules. He sees my wiki. And now what he can do is he can go, hey, I'm going to come up here and edit this. So then I could be like, have you ever heard of the pop goes the weasel? Or, no, Scott, come on. For the Pythagorean theorem, right? And he could put that in there, you know, x is equal to the opposite b plus or minus the square root. We all know the song. So you could put that in there, and the students could actually build out like their own little knowledge repository for the other kids, if you want them to. If you don't, depending on the class, you may want to take that back. But that's another way to get those students interacting and a way to get them working back and forth with each other. The other thing I would say, and I had somebody tell me this yesterday, they were using the assignments as pages because they didn't know about pages. They were making these you know, lists of directions or whatever that they wanted their kids to do, but they were using that, they were making an assignment worth 0 points. And so the kids had like 87 assignments, but really only they had 20 things that they had to do. So take your time to separate out which is which. If it's something that kids need to know but don't need to interact with, then that would be a page. If it's something that they need to return to you, that would be an assignment. Okay, so right now it's about 10:50. Why don't we take a few minutes for those of you who want to try to make a page, try to make a module, for those of you who want to try and play around with the rich content editor. Literally any of those things that you would like to do. We have a few minutes if you want to try and create something inside of a module. Why don't we take until 11 o'clock before we start talking about the really big stuff when we start talking about quizzes and analytics. So I'll put my Google timer back up there. And of course, I will be in the chat looking to see if there's anything in there. I see a couple questions in there already.
Scott, can you cross-list a course if it's unpublished?
Yes, you can
Okay.
cross-list it. And for those of you that were with us last year, we believed that you needed to sync it to SYS first. That is not true. You can cross-list and sync to SYS in any order that you like.
Okay, so if they are still seeing all of the courses under unpublished, does that mean that they did not cross-list?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because when you cross-list correctly, that little card, that little square with the name of the class on it will disappear.
Okay. I didn't know if it mattered between published and unpublished.
No, it shouldn't matter at all.
Okay. Scott, I figured it'd be easier if you just kind of talked through this instead of me typing a bunch of stuff. What would you say the benefits of pages and assignments are versus using modules?
So I would say that the benefit of pages and assignments versus just using modules is you can, using a page, you can explain more than just throwing something in a module. You know what I mean? Modules are there for laying out and for organization, but for your directions and that kind of stuff, in my mind, and once again, I'm coming at this from the view of a kid like I was. You know, I had a lot of trouble concentrating, and if you show me something shiny, I was gonna look at it. But I think if you're using a page to direct kids to a module and to only that module, then they'll be able to just see that little chunk instead of seeing everything that's coming up, whether it's published or not, or seeing everything that they've already done because that is still published. Does that make sense? So for me, a page is using a kid to direct the way that they work, direct where you want them to go. And let me go ahead and show you what I mean by that.
The way I kind of think about it is like a module is more like a file folder, maybe, and like the pages and assignments are the things you would put into that folder to just organize it.
That's an excellent way of putting it. You know, if you're here, I don't know why, I probably got 38 tabs open somewhere. But if I go to my pages, inside of this page, I can call this, lava, whatever. And then in here, I could be like, please read this info on lava and then do the assignment. I can go and I can take this info on lava, right? And I can make that a link to a specific module. So I could say, I want them to look at this module when they click on that, and it'll bring them directly there. It's not published, but you get the idea. And then when that's done, I want them to do this assignment. So for me, it's sort of like as a file folder is a great way to put it, or as almost like your chalkboard or like a to-do list, right? I'm going to do this, this, and this. And the kid goes, I don't know where to go, or I don't know how to get there. You can use this. You always, bring them back to here and drive them to where you want them to go. It's just a matter of opinion on which is which. That's just the way I like to work. And it makes a little bit of sense to me. Understanding that it's going to be a little bit different for every class. This is just a great way of doing it, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I have not looked at this yet, Scott, but is there a way to get your second semester courses off of the dashboard? Or they're just always going to sit there unpublished?
So let's say that you got 1 million courses like I got, right? So if I go to my courses, and go to all courses, there's 1 million courses on here, all right? Half of these I made, half of them are sandboxes, whatever. If you're here on your dashboard and you only want to see your first semester stuff, it's very easy to do. You just go to courses and you go to all courses. And anything with a star by it, see how some of these stars are filled in and some of them are not? The second that you make one star filled in, that will be the only course that you see on your dashboard. So if I only wanted my first semester stuff, I just go through and find my first semester ones and put a star by them. It doesn't delete them, it just hides them. That way when you go to the dashboard, that's all you're going to see. You're like, oh, okay, that's too many. I only want, when semester rolls around, you go through and you flip your stars. You take it off for here. Oh, we need that one. You take it off for here, and then you put the rest of them in like this. And that way when you go back to your dashboard, it'll update with only the courses that you want to see. It doesn't delete them. It doesn't hurt them in any way. It just hides them.
Perfect. And I did have one more question about if you created something yourself and you wanted to share it with another teacher.
So if you want to share things with another teacher, there's a couple of different ways to do that, depending on how big or how small it is that you want to share. Like if you just want to share a module, you can come over here and you can click the 3 dots on any module and send it to. And I could send this, I'll send this to Hannah. You got to spell her name right. There she is. Right? And I can send that to her. And when you send that to somebody, they'll get a little notification up here where it says account. I don't know if you can see that there, the little account. They'll get a little notification here, and then they just open it. They come down to where it says shared content. And then here's some stuff that some people have shared with me. And you're like, okay, the right angle trig quiz, perfect. Actions, import it. It'll ask you what course. You put it in the course, and then you can manipulate it, put it wherever you want. So sharing things like that is very easy. You can share pages, you can share assignments, you can share entire courses if you want to. Okay, let's take a look. I know some people are wanting to know about some gradebook stuff and some quiz stuff, so let me go ahead and hop into that. And for this, I'm actually going to pull up a previous course that I had. Actually, I'll just do my student demo one because I don't want to show you any kid stuff. Okay. So this is my student demo course. It is a mess. Please don't judge me. But what it does have is about a year's worth of nonsense of me trying to grade things, figure out what was going on, just so it's got a bunch of data in there. I know a lot of people have been asking about the gradebook. Let's talk about the gradebook real quick, what that means and what you need to do with it and how it works. Okay, first things first. When you create an assignment inside of Canvas, it's going to automatically create a little hole here for you to put your grades in, right? Now you may choose to go through and use that through the speed grader, which would be the easiest way of doing it. Whatever the assignment is, you can open it up, or you can come here. Oh, that's a quiz. Let's go to an assignment. You could go through, you could open it up. Let's just grab this guy. And I could come to the speed grader and I could put in my grade, okay? Obviously, you can put in comments over here that the kids will see. You can use video comments. You're like, excellent point. I think that you go back and use that in your application for college, whatever. All right, so you could go through and you could use that. And I think that the recorded comments are kind of nice because when you type something, you just like with an email, you sort of lose that that perspective, that tone. With a video comment, obviously they get to hear it. It does a speech to text. You'd be like, hey, this is a really good job, and it's not going to get my microphone because I'm already using it on the WebEx, so that's why there's nothing there. But if I were talking, it would bring up a speech to type, or you could upload a file, right? So you get the feedback piece, which is very important. But you can see I went through, I added this stuff in, I gave him his grade, and now I could go to the grade book, either through the assignment or through the navigation on the side. And I can find it in here. Now, like I said, this is a mess because I've just been playing with it for who knows how long. But this is where you can find it, okay? What I want to talk about, though, is what the kids see versus what SIS says versus the total of the grade. So let me tell you what I mean. In Fort Zumwalt, SIS is the grade of record. It does not matter what Canvas says. It does not matter what your paper grade book says. It doesn't matter anything. The only thing that matters is what SIS says, okay? So you might be thinking, well, why would I put stuff here in Canvas and then put stuff in SIS? Okay, so most of us know, if you were here last year, that you can copy your content from Canvas and just import it with a click into SIS. You can do that. Very easy to do. It's easy to set up. We got directions on how to do that. I can't show you because I don't have a grade book, but I could do it with yours. So that's a thing you can do. But the biggest problem is many of us are going to have things that we're going to assign that are not necessarily going to be in Canvas. Your participation grades are probably not going to be in Canvas. Your, you could have a lab maybe isn't in Canvas. Maybe you just do it in person. Maybe there's some group work, right? So they're going to have grades that are going to go directly into SIS and are not going to be in Canvas. And that's even for those of us who use Canvas for mostly everything. So we need to communicate very clearly with our parents and with our teachers. With our parents and our students, that what you see in Canvas may be accurate assignment-wise. Like if you get a 10 here in Canvas, then that's a 10 in SIS. But that doesn't show you the whole grade. So I want to talk about what it looks like for the kids, what it looks like for the teachers, and what it looks like, especially if you're going to be like weighting grades or something like that. So start at the start. Here inside of Canvas, if I come over here to my little gear on the side, I have the ability to set up some policies. And this will all be taken care of inside of Canvas. So you can automatically apply a late grade. And if it's late, I don't know, you get 5% off, right? It's up to you, whatever you want to put. And then if you want to deduct points for late submissions, you can be like, it's an automatic 5% per day, per hour, per week, with the lowest possible grade. I don't want to go below 75, right? Whatever it is. So you can set those things up. You can also choose your grade posting policy. So your grade posting policy will be whether you want the grades to show up automatically for each of the assignments. As soon as you put it in, the kid can see it. Or if you want to manually post it, you want to hide it until you're ready to show it to them. Now, this won't affect any ones that you've already done, so that's something to keep in mind. As you go through, you can see that there are a lot of things up here in the grade book, but I want to show you one of the things that we did for our teachers this year that we did not do last year because we didn't know that we could. What we did for the student, this is what they're going to see. So if I go here, I go to student demo, I go to my grades tab. This is an excellent resource for parents. This is an excellent resource for kids. If you got your due date set up and you have it the way that you want it, you'll notice that we have missing tags, we have late tags, we have scores, we have some things with these little red eye or crossed eyes, which means I haven't posted it yet. And you have these little things that, because I'm the teacher, that you can play around with a little bit if you want to. You can see my comments over here. So really, this grades tab that we want our kids to be able to see this, we want our parents to be able to see this. But once again, there's that differentiation between what's right in Canvas and what's right in SIS. So if you're weighting grades, that's not going to show up in here. If you're doing classwork, that's not going to show up in here. So what it looks like now by default, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, like I said, there's a lot of stuff. They're going to see these things over here, but they're not going to have, it's going to say NA next to it, not available. Because we don't want them to see the total for the assignments. And we don't want them to see an 85 over here and think that that's the 85 that they have in class. That may or may not be the case, but we don't want them to see it here and think that that's what they got, then they're smooth sailing. But for all their flip grids and all their quizzes, they have zeros, and everyone thinks that they're doing great and they got a B and they wind up with an F. So we've hidden these down here. You'll be able to see, the students will be able to see, I got a 5 out of 30 or 5 out of 10 on my assignment. And I can come over here, I can see the comment that my teacher made. You can come over here and you can see rubrics. If you have rubrics set up for your things, you can see what it looks like and what you scored on the rubric. You can see missing tags. If I want to see what my kid's missing, easy greasy. You come over here to grades. If everything's in Canvas, you come over here to grades and you can see exactly what's missing. They go, my son says he turned everything in. Is it there? Go to the grades tab and find out, right? Because the parents can see this as well. But as far as totals go, if you want to see your total grade, I'm going to need you to go to SIS. So I think that's the big point that we need to hammer home, because once again, there are things inside of Canvas. I'm sorry, there are going to be things inside of SIS that are just not in Canvas. And I used Canvas for almost everything last year, and there were still a good handful of things that just didn't make their way over. Because why make an assignment in here for something that I'm doing in class when I can just type it in, right? So you guys know how your courses work. There are obviously differences between that. That I would think would be the biggest thing. The other thing is I've had various results on people who say that they've weighted stuff in Canvas and it come over to SIS properly. If you're doing weighted grades, my personal, like I said, people will tell you, and I've seen it kind of work. Your mileage may vary, but if you want to be dead on for sure, just weight them in SIS and don't worry about it here in Canvas. That's been my experience. That's not to say you can't do it, but I've had people like double weight things if they set it up wrong in one place or not the other. So it is something that you got to be very, very careful of. My advice is going to be just go ahead and do it inside of Canvas or do it inside of SIS. Okay.
Is there a way to hide the final grade in Canvas?
That's what by default that is. Your final grade is now hidden by default. That's down here under the settings. Okay. More options. So that's down here, and this is checked by default. Hide totals in student grade summary and hide the distribution graph. So when a student comes into the student view, they're not going to see, great, Scott, come on now. They're not going to see a total down here. Now, if you want to hide the grades entirely, you can just hide the grades tab and call it a day. You can just go into the navigation, drag that grades tab down, and the kids won't be able to see a thing from it. So it depends on what you're going after. But yes, as far as totals, the totals are now hidden by default. So any course that was generated this year from Canvas, I'm sorry, from SIS, is not something that you have to manually go in and do. That'll be set up like that automatically. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to cough there for a second. Okay, from the teacher side, of course, you can see you've got your gradebook here, and it can get super duper busy very, very quickly. Some of these, excuse me again, some of these are due to the fact that this isn't like a real course. So like filters and terms and that kind of stuff does not have anything to do with it. But you can, when the time comes, you can filter what you have by either assignment groups, by modules. Oh, my half-day modules, there they all are, right? So this is another reason to help to use those groups and those modules to sort of figure out what's going on. It helps in the gradebook a little bit. You can view, you can do it by due date. You can do it by points highest to lowest, whatever it is, you can clear out all these guys. All groups, all assignments. But you can also hide unpublished assignments. So if you go in, you bring in a bunch of assignments, you got a bunch of old ones in there, they're all going to be unpublished, hide them, right? So you can hide them that way. You can filter out student groups. Like I said, you can do all kinds of stuff. The gradebook itself is kind of handy if you need to bring up a student to talk to. So you can be like individual view for, let's say, this student. Okay. So then you can come over and you say, okay, man, here's what I got going on. Here's what I see, you know, let's do it by due date. And you can sort of see what's going on with these students, right? So here's the overall average of what the kid's doing. In case you need to see, okay, now you're missing this one, and now you're missing this one. We'll go through one by one, but you can talk to them without being able to see everything else. So that's an option that you have to the grade book. Real quick, let's talk about some of these scores, and then I'll give you a second to play around inside of a grade book that you have, maybe from last year or something like that. A couple things. So what do these crazy little colors and symbols mean? So zeros are obviously zeros. Dashes means they haven't turned anything in. There are two reasons why you might get this funny little symbol here. This symbol is either A, something like a Google assignment that you need to go in and grade, hasn't been graded yet, or this could be a multiple submission. If you allow your kids to resubmit, and you do that inside the assignment box, if you want to let them resubmit, they can go through here and they resubmit their second submission, and you're like, okay, I need to take a look at that. That's a 5. Okay, whatever. The colors you can exempt. Oops, my bad. You can exempt kids from stuff, of course. You can, here, let me get away from this. You can exempt them, you can make them late, you can have them change colors, you know, if you want to, where do they hide that? By default, that's here under statuses. And you can say, okay, we got late, we got missing, we got resubmitted, whatever. So I come over here and I can be like, excused. And this is late. Oops. Oh, I don't have that one set up for that. That's why. That's why it didn't work. You could have it set up as late. You could have it set up as dropped, excused, missing. So whatever, however it is that you want to do it, you can do it that way. And like I said, if you have it set up automatically, those tags will show up over there. The other thing that is really helpful, especially inside of Canvas, on the 3 dots on this, is message student who. So, hi, I haven't been able to grade your assignment yet. Or, message student who scored less than. Message students who scored more than. They have a, you can hide grades, you can enter the grades as percentages. You can curve the grades if you want. You can set a default grade. Okay, so now they all have 8s. So you can use some of the things in here to very easily work through your workflow, especially if you have some students that you are constantly reaching out to. I know I got a ton of questions in here, and I know some of you guys are wanting to play around with. So let's go ahead. Let's take 10 minutes. If you want to play around with your, if you want to play around with the grade book from last year, if you want to look at the grade book that you have now, won't have anything in it, but you can set it up if you like. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is analytics, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions. Okay, so bear with me. It's 11:20 now. I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes, and then we'll talk about analytics, and then I'll open up the floor for questions. Okay.
Scott, if your assignments don't have due dates, will they show up in the grade book still? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the only way to have an assignment that doesn't show up in the due date is, or doesn't show up in the grade book, and I'm not 100% on this because I need to check it out because it's not something that I dealt with. I think you can do it with a, let's take a look. I know on paper will. Let's try no submission. Let's see if this works. I still think it will though. To hide my published ones. Nope, even that shows up. So I don't know if there's a way. I'll have to look and see. And I'm not sure if there's a way to put in a grade or put in an assignment and have them do it, but also not have it show up in the grade book. That's something I'll have to take a look at. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is some analytics. And so with our quizzes, with our kids, with our assignments and all the stuff that we do, you can actually track how your kids are working in the course. And this is super helpful when you get kids that start out well and then, maybe they start to hit the wall maybe later in the semester, whatever the case might be. So I did want to show it to you because I think it's important. So I'm going to go back home. And I'm going to go to, actually, I'm going to bring up an older course because this is the one I just made. Not one with the kids in it though, not with real kids. Let's find our here we go. Okay, so I want to bring this up, and then we're going to go over to the right-hand side, and we're going to go to where it says New Analytics. And in here, you'll be able to see pretty much all the data about your kids that you could ever want to know. It updates relatively quickly. It's not going to be minute by minute or second by second, but you can see your average course grade. You can go student by student and see how they're doing. You could see section by section. You could, once again, get that message students who you might have pulled up here. Let me close that out. I want to check the quizzes. So you can see what the grades are. You can sort of look at the timeline down here. Now, obviously, this is a test demo course, so a lot of things I just threw in there and didn't grade. But it is something that you can do. You can download it if you needed to. You could see your weekly online activity. All right. You can see the page views. You can see how often they're in there. So if they're like, oh, I did all that work over spring break and it's gone, and you go like, well, no, it doesn't look like you did, right? You could see how the students are actually working, what their last participation was in there, what their last page views were, how many times they view the page, how often they've participated, right? So you can get a lot of data out of here, and then you can go to the reports. And once again, I can run a report on all the missing assignments. And I can pull up this report. That'll pop up on the other screen so you can't see it. I can pull up this report and I can say, okay, these are the students who are missing stuff, and here's what they're missing, and here's when the due date was, right? So using these things is a very easy way to sort of figure out what's going on with your class, with the roster, with how the kids are working with your class. This was the is this the late one? Yeah. This was the the course activity, right? So I can see the first time he was in, the last time he was in on this particular page or this particular looking at the word study clip art or whatever it was. You can pull up all this information from your kids and see how they're working and participating in your class. And that way you'll be able to sort of keep yourself on track as well as helping your kids out and seeing what's going on with that. Not only do you have that ability here inside of the new analytics, but if you're using new quizzes, oh, sorry, I went to the wrong one. And you go to moderate this. No, this is an old quiz. These are old quizzes, never mind. I need a new quiz, totally new quiz. Okay, so inside of the new quizzes, you can get reports about, and I haven't done anything in here, so that's my bad, about outcomes and whatever, but you can also do some moderating. The new analytics stuff is on the dashboard on your homepage, right? You go to your dashboard, you go to your homepage, you come over here to new analytics. It's right here on the right-hand side. For the quiz stuff, oh yeah, there's nothing in this one because this is the new one. Grab the wrong course. New analytics. For the quizzes, those analytics are only going to show up inside of a new quiz. And then they've changed this. So this now says save, save and build, and there's another option, so you won't see quite like that. And I'd like to show you this moderate tab up here. So inside of this moderate tab, this is going to be something that's super helpful for kids who happen to have extended time. Also for kids, so you can sort of see how long that they did. I'm sure we've all had a student who is like, okay, I've got this done. And then, you know, they come back and you see that, you know, the score, like they didn't pay any attention to it. You'll be able to see how long it took them to take that quiz. You'll be able to see, you know, how many attempts they have if you have many attempts. But the other thing is that for our students with accommodations, we can come over here and we can click on this pencil. And you can see these settings will be applied for all course assessments for the student. So you only have to do it one time. And let's say that my student over here gets additional time. Well, I give him another hour, right? Or I can remove the time limit completely. Or I can multiply it by, like, he gets twice as long. Nope, not 20. He gets twice as long. And these are ways for you to help your students and help you, you know, with small modifications. Now, it's not going to do a lot of things like, it's not going to take away options or anything like that. So if you have something like that, you might have to build another course or another quiz for that student. But for, you know, for things like time, you can jump into this accommodations and it'll set those accommodations for everybody. For everybody, every quiz, I should say, that this student has in your course. The other thing is you can do a little bit of this moderation right here. Once again, you get the time limits and you can give them additional attempts. So let's say nobody gets additional attempts except one student, then you can come in here and add that in this way. So it's just another way for you to help with your kids, you know, help those accommodations, help those students who struggle a little bit with what they need to do. If you, oops, excuse me. If you find yourself with students, you know, more than a couple students who are, you know, who need something a little bit more, you can just essentially copy the quiz over and then start taking away some answers or rewriting the questions or whatever. And then that's where that build box would come in. So you could come back up here. Let's return. So here, let me do it like this way. So I've got this quiz, right? But I have a student who has accommodations. They need fewer questions or they need fewer responses or whatever that might be. I might just take this and duplicate it then. And then when I copy it over, when I copy it over, I can then assign one just to those certain students. And that way, everyone else doesn't get that quiz, only these kids do. Sometimes that's something that you can do if you have more than just one or two, or if you have like a whole bunch of kids that that have, you know, the similar accommodations. You can create a little section, but that goes a little bit beyond what we're doing here. If that's something you can throw in a work ticket, and I'd be glad to talk you through that one. I know I fed you with the shovel. I know we were drinking from the fire hose there, but I can see that there's a good handful of questions in the chat, and I can see that some people are playing around with some stuff. So here's what we're going to do. There's only 20 minutes left. So I will go ahead and we'll, I was planning on ending at 11:50 anyway, just to give you a chance to, you know, get something to drink and go do whatever you got to do. So we'll take the next 10 minutes as sort of work time for anything that you want to work on. I'm going to jump in the chat. I'm going to jump in the Q&A and see what's going on there. And then I'll keep recording in case something crazy comes up, you know, until 11:50. And then at that point, we'll just go ahead and we'll shut it off, and I'll stop recording. Okay. So thank you for your time. Go ahead and play around with any of these things. You can go back into one of your old courses from last year and look at those analytics. You can go back in and check out a quiz from last year if it's a new one, and see what those numbers tell you. By the way, for those who are wondering about the new quizzes, they've been extended until next year at this time. So July 2022 is the last time you'll be able to create one. But we all know that Canvas has pushed those out before or pushed that deadline out before. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. If you're asking me, I would say get used to the new quizzes, but it's not something that you'll need to definitely have, you know, a grasp on this semester if you're more comfortable with the old stuff. Secondly, like I said, at some point in the fall is all that they say, you will have the ability to print a new quiz. So for those of you who have kids that work better with paper and pencil, you'll be able to just print that thing out and give it to them. I don't have a specific date, but when I find out, I will certainly let you know. Okay. Any pressing questions right now before I jump into the chat?
Nothing here.
Okay, cool. So I'll go ahead and jump into the Q&A and jump into the chat and see where we're at. There was a question in there about deleting something from Commons. If you jump into your Commons and you come up to shared, this will be all the stuff that you imported. And if you want to get rid of it, you should be able to just hit the trash can. I believe that permission is reserved for whoever imported it. So if you got something in there that's from your school that, you know, and that teacher left or whatever, an admin should be able to go in there and do it as well. So the teacher who put it in there or the admin, I think, are the only two people who can do that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop the recorder. I'll be here for a couple more minutes because I'm working on something for some people. So if you have a question, you need to hang around, that's perfectly fine. But like I said, I'm going to stop the screen share. I'm going to stop the recorder. Oh, and by the way, if you feel like you got something out of this, that's awesome. There's only 10 minutes left, so go ahead and take this time to, you know, get relaxed, because I know many of us have sessions that we have to do after this, or have some meetings that we have to go to in our building. So if you need to take a few minutes now and go ahead and drop off a few minutes early, that's perfectly fine too.